graphic design or photo student, you'll probably be here a lot, but there are some tips you need to know to make sure that your prints come out right. First, let's look at how to set up your file to bring it to the lab. The print lab will only accept these file formats: PDF, PNG, JPEG, TIFF, and Photoshop. It's very important to make sure your file is the correct size and resolution, which is the number of pixels per inch. Our printers operate at 300 dots per inch, so your file needs to be exported at that same resolution.
Getting your resolution right is the #1 most important thing. If you bring in a file at the wrong DPI, we can't print it.
I might try to print it because I'm a pushover, but that's no excuse. Let's look at how to set up a document in InDesign that'll print correctly at the lab. Go ahead and make it whatever size you want, although if you're printing on one of our papers and don't want to do any cutting, make it one of our paper sizes. Set up your other settings however you need, and then come down to this menu, which is called Bleed and Slug. Bleed is extra area around your document that stops your print from coming out with weird white edges. Think of it as a little extra safety net for your colors. If you're printing here in the lab, you should probably set your bleed to either 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch, depending on the size of your document. Larger documents, because the paper is bigger, sometimes need a little more bleed. Now let's look at exporting from InDesign. If you're working in InDesign, especially with type, your best bet for bringing something to the print lab is a print PDF. This is the export box. Most of the stuff on the first page you can leave the same, but you definitely want to come down here to this little thing that says marks and bleeds. If your document is smaller than the paper you're printing on, check the crop marks box, which puts little marks on the corners of your document so you can cut it out with a ruler. No matter what you're exporting, you'll want to make sure this box is checked, which is labeled Use Document Bleed Settings. Even if you've set up a bleed when you started your document, when you export it, if this box isn't checked, InDesign won't keep it, and then your print will come out looking bad. Now let's set up a document in Photoshop, which is a little bit different because Photoshop is kind of weird. You'll want to change your unit to inches, and then down here, change your resolution to 300 pixels per inch, which is the only resolution our printers will print. If you want to be very finicky about your colors, you can change your color mode to CMYK, but if you bring an RGB document, we should still be able to print it no problem. Photoshop doesn't have a bleed option, so the best thing you can do is just make your document a little bit bigger than you need it, and remember that you have that margin when you're composing. To export from Photoshop, something you could bring to the lab, you can save it as a Photoshop document, a JPEG, a PNG, or a TIFF, but none of these other weird ones. Don't do that. Finally, let's take a look at setting up an Illustrator. Make your document whatever size you need, and then Illustrator has your bleed option right here. 1/8 of an inch is usually good enough. If you really want, you can change your color mode to CMYK, especially if you're bringing in a PDF, but it's not super important. To export a file from Illustrator, you can actually just save as a PDF, and you will want to check the Use Artboards box to make sure your image maintains its size. Just like InDesign, come down here to where it says Marks and Bleeds, turn on Trim Marks if you want them, and make sure that this box is checked which says Use Document Bleed Settings. From there, you can save, bring that in, and it should print fine. The print lab is conveniently located in room 211 on the second floor of Way Hall. When you walk in to drop a file off, you'll fill out the print slip. The print slip has columns for your file names, which should contain your last name, the size of your files, the type of paper you'd like them printed on, and the number of copies, if you want more than one. At the bottom, you should write your name, your phone number, the date, and the total price of all the prints on the slip. If you have questions about the types of paper, consult the paper sample book. And if you have questions about pricing, check out the price chart. When that's all filled out, give your flash drive, along with the slip, to whoever's working the lab. They'll open your file, make sure it looks right, and then tell you about how long it should take to print. When you come back to pick up, please be aware that the print lab can only accept app cards as payment. If you're out of money on your app card, there are machines at Trivet and the library to add cash. You can and should check when the print lab is open by checking the whiteboard on the door or by checking our Google Calendar. Now you know everything you need to use the print lab. And remember, don't bring us stuff that's wrong!